Welcome back to the show. Today we are talking about when the league's most prolific performer was at his peak. I'm not saying LeBron is necessarily the greatest player of all time, but it would be hard to argue that any other player has a longer, more decorated career than LeBron James. LeBron is 4th in all-time assists. He has 19 All-NBA seasons, that's a record. He has 13 first-team All-NBA selections, that's a record too. He leads the league in all-time points in the postseason and the regular season, and he leads in all-time playoff wins. The only record I don't think he's actually going to get to. I think he's going to have the most games played, but he's not going to have the most wins unless he plays like 4 more years to beat Kareem's record. So looking at this 20-year career, let's try to figure out where LeBron was at his pinnacle. The first thing we should figure out is LeBron even past his prime. Yes, of course, he's past his prime. Come on. He's still a top 10 guy, but he is not the best LeBron we've ever seen. Let's get into why though. I'm going to say the latest era of LeBron is from 2018 to present day. Laker LeBron. We can rule out 4 of these seasons because he never played more than 56 games. Now, as an aside, LeBron is my favorite player of all time, but he was All-NBA during these 4 seasons, and I don't think he should have been, considering how few games he played and how good his teams were. It's always important to remember, All-NBA selections have a lot to do with your history and your pedigree and your reputation, I guess. Personally, I think they should reflect how good you were that season, but they don't. So let's talk about the one season he played 67 games out of 71, 2019 to 2020, the bubble season, the bubble championship. The Lakers finished at the top of the Western Conference, and LeBron was named first team All-NBA, which he deserved. Is this a good enough season to make Laker LeBron the best LeBron we've ever seen? No, absolutely not. Come on. Most NBA players would love to have this be the best season they've ever had, which Anthony Davis had a similar season, and it is the best season AD's ever had. First of all, LeBron is a good defender as a Laker when he needs to be. LeBron hasn't been on an all-defensive team since 2014. He doesn't have the energy to chase down every block or contest every three-pointer. Also, he had AD, who was first team all-defense. And AD was a great rim protector, and usually he guarded the guy that LeBron would have guarded in his 20s. LeBron also averaged 4 less minutes a game than he did for his career, and his usage rating right now is currently the lowest it's ever been, but it's still pretty high. The bubble year was the year he led the league in assists and focused mostly on playmaking. LeBron was great that year, but he had some help. So, Lakers era LeBron is not the best LeBron we've ever seen. So let's do the basic move and let's look at some stats to figure out when he reached his peak. If we do this, we're looking at the first 7 years of his career at Cleveland. LeBron played 96% of the games during those 7 years. That's unheard of. Even young players now sit out games where they're not even hurt. Let's take a second to appreciate LeBron's availability. Also during this stretch was when LeBron won the scoring title and his first 2 MVPs. LeBron averaged 41 minutes a game. He was only not playing 7 minutes a game. That's insane. I think LeBron gets the most credit during this era for his playoff runs, including when he made it to the finals in 2007. The cast around LeBron was nothing special. We're talking Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Larry Hughes, and Anderson Varejao. I'm not trying to dog these players, but if these are your best scoring options other than LeBron, you're gonna go to LeBron every time. So the reason most people wouldn't consider this LeBron's best era is because of his team success. But we're looking at it from an individual athlete perspective. LeBron wasn't as good of a shooter as he became later in his career. His PER was still very high, but his field goal percentage wasn't that great. He hadn't developed his three-point shot, but most importantly, he didn't have that basketball IQ yet. He didn't have the experience to see the floor. It wasn't until 2007 when we really started seeing LeBron's defensive awareness and playmaking ability. If someone made the case that LeBron was actually at his peak during his first 7 years, I'd hear him out, but I probably couldn't be convinced. Now let's talk about LeBron's second stint as a Cleveland Cavalier, 2014 to 2018. I think people talk about this being LeBron's peak because of the emotional element of him bringing a championship to Cleveland. But we're not talking about narrative, we're talking about basketball. I think we can talk about some of the intangibles though, like LeBron's ability to galvanize a team and make them play as a cohesive unit. LeBron's stats were good, but they were always good. He took a team that finished 10th in the East and took them to the finals the following year. Now I know they traded for Kevin Love, but it's still a leap, and Kevin Love did not come from a winning culture in Minnesota. LeBron made the finals all 4 years during that stint. And in one of those finals, he came back and won when he was down 3-1 to the Golden State Warriors. Now I know that's narrative, but you gotta admire his perseverance for winning 3 straight finals games. We also got LeBron's career highlight.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by
If you don't think that's LeBron's career highlight, what is it? So the only reason this was not LeBron's peak was because of the Miami Heat era LeBron James. So the easy argument here is LeBron won 2 championships and he was MVP twice. And he was also on 4 all-defensive teams. He had the highest three-point percentage and field goal percentage that he ever had in his career during that time too. But let's get into some of the nuance. Some people discredit this era of LeBron because he had Dwyane Wade and he had Chris Bosh, but his usage rate was as high as ever. With his talented cast around him, we were able to see what LeBron could do off the ball. He didn't have to bring the ball all up and create the play. His outside shooting was taken to another level, and he developed his post game. There's actually some really cool videos on YouTube where Hakeem is teaching LeBron James his post moves and his footwork. This is something I admire in any pursuit where someone gets out of their comfort zone to create a new dynamic for themselves. I'd compare it to like the Beatles going to India or Jordan Peele going from sketch comedy to directing horror movies. I think this demonstrates a real love for the game, whatever that game is. We also had LeBron's greatest game of all time, Game 6 against the Boston Celtics in 2012 in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Heat were facing an elimination, and we saw LeBron showcase every aspect of his game. But most importantly, we saw LeBron James' strength of will to finish the game with 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists. The guy just wouldn't take a loss. I would encourage anyone to watch the House of Highlights recap of that game. That's my opinion, but I am not a basketball historian. I'm sure there are a lot more people that know more than I do and have different opinions than me, and I'd like to hear them. So thank you for being here. Much love. Be good to your mothers. Eat your corn dogs.